Hello, welcome to 8.9 News. I'm ffinlo Costain. Today's headlines: rural England's 9.7 million people risk being left further behind. Small abattoir campaigners call for the 5% rule to be applied. And the CIA director says that climate tipping points are here and now. Advocates working to protect small abattoirs from closure are calling on the Food Standards Agency and Defra to implement the 5% rule in the UK. This rule would allow small abattoirs to increase their throughput from 1,000 livestock units a year to 5% of national throughput, thought to be around 5 to 10,000 livestock units a year, while still maintaining a lighter touch veterinary inspection regime. Jason Aldiss is head of external affairs for the Association of Independent Meat Suppliers. I asked him first why small abattoirs are under so much pressure.
It's a mixture of issues. Obviously, the cost of living crisis is causing problems in terms of electricity and supply, of course. Having left the European Union, the supply of migrant labour is restricted. The lack of government investment in terms of education for succession planning and overburdensome regulation from the regulator.
What immediate solutions are you looking for?
Clearly, some sort of grant support system would be appreciated. That's unrealistic, we accept that. But what we're looking for is an understanding that these smaller premises are low risk, they operate to a very high standard of production, and a deregulatory process and a more flexible approach to regulation as possible.
Now, my understanding is that there's a rule called the 5% rule, which is something that abattoir operators would like to see applied here, and that this is connected to there being a limit on the amount of headage that can go through smaller abattoirs and the role of the operating vet. I wonder if you can unpack that for us a bit.
Yeah, so at the moment, a small premises can slaughter up to 1,000 livestock units per year, under which they can operate as a more flexible arrangement. There's veterinary ante-mortem, but the post-mortem inspection, for example, can be delayed. There can be cold inspection, and the veterinary regime that controls them is light touch. The 5% rule is permitted within the European legislation, and that permits a competent authority, so Defra, to allow premises operating up to 5% of the national throughput. So that's a higher limit. We think that's between 5 and 10,000 units to be operated at a light touch veterinary regime. It relates to the discontinuous slaughter approach, which was present within the previous legislation. So it's not a new concept at all. It's applied across the European Union. Obviously, we're no longer a member of that. So that's one of the failures of Brexit, of course.
Why is there opposition to the 5% rule being applied? What are the politics there?
There's been a lot of toing and froing between the two regulators. That's the Food Standards Agency and Defra. One blames the other. It's a typical government silo thinking. At the moment, it's been referred back to Defra. Their argument is that as we're no longer a member state, we're no longer able to apply that flexibility, and we have to ask the European Union permission to use it. We argue that process, whether it's true or not, is actually quite straightforward. We just need to get off and do it.
Now, Jason, I want to slightly change the tack of the conversation here and ask if the UK government and the European Commission are resistant to the 5% rule being applied. Is there an alternative? Would it be possible to have a separate domestic-only supply chain for private kill and smaller scale producers?
There absolutely is. And this is one of those things that one talks about Brexit dividends. It would give us the opportunity to actually deregulate the smaller end of the meat industry, which operates at extremely high level, as does the larger end, of course, but with different markets. There's the issue of fifth quarter, which is the movement of the byproducts and the distribution of those byproducts, and the worry that without proper traceability, they could divert into products that could end up on the export market. It is my argument that we could separate the two levels of the industry if we invested in suitable traceability systems, used adequate technological solutions, which are already there, and we could actually make this work. And it would really cut the regulatory burden on those smaller premises. They're shutting it at a ridiculous rate at the moment, and we need to do everything that we possibly can to protect them, support them, and look after them. They're a vital part of the UK's agri-livestock sector.
Now, there has been resistance, hasn't there, from the larger scale abattoir sector, who are perhaps a bit more dependent on exports and trade with the European Union and elsewhere. And this has been around transparency and that sort of fifth quarter element. Is that simply a straw man? Is that a resistance that's genuine, or do you genuinely think that we can get over that fifth quarter element, and that if we do, that the larger abattoirs ought to be happy with that?
It's a genuine concern, but there are ready solutions, and we just need to grasp those solutions, change the industry. The industry needs to come forward and modify itself to permit a deregulated regime and a two-tier regime, and we need to make it work. The larger operators without that have a genuine concern, but I believe that government and industry can work together to find those solutions.
That was Jason Aldiss from the Association of Independent Meat Suppliers. More about this and our other headline news on our website, 8point9.com. That's all for now. We're back on Friday. Thanks for watching.